think we are just scratching the tip of the
What do you
iceberg.
see the end game for you in with Cafu?
Global domination.
Global domination,
Yeah.
okay.
The mobility space is a very interesting space, but nobody really addressed the infrastructure space around mobility.
Hello and welcome to Conversations with Loulou. If you live in the UAE, you've probably seen those teal-colored little trucks that go around town and deliver petrol. You may have also gone to your app store and downloaded the Cafu app to get fuel delivered straight to your home or your office or wherever you may be. So it is with great pleasure that I welcome Rashid Ghurair. Rashid is the founder of Cafu and a prominent businessman from the UAE. He is also a philanthropist. He serves as a member of the board of trustees for the Abdullah Al Ghurair Foundation for Education. And more recently, Rashid was appointed as a board member of the Dubai Digital Chamber of the Dubai Chamber of Digital Economy. So it is with great pleasure that I welcome Rashid so we can talk about his experience of launching Cafu. What are some of his challenges? What are his thoughts on competition, expansion, his business model, fundraising, and much, much more. So Rashid, thank you so much for coming in and welcome to the show.
Thank you. Nice to be here.
So you come from a... let's start with where you come from. You come from a very prominent business family in the UAE, the Al Ghurair family. You are the third generation in this family. So what was it? Maybe give us a glimpse of what it was like to grow up in a family like that, in a successful family.
Well, it wasn't easy. When you come on the shadow of somebody who is in front of you, who is my dad, and he has left behind or is leaving behind a big legacy. To come into those big footsteps is not easy. We started with a lot of challenges when we were young, and it started with putting our minds into a bigger perspective, look at the world in a different way. One of the things which my dad used to tell me is that there are no borders for business. Business has no borders, and opportunities flow without borders. So we saw the world as a small place to live in and do business. I grew up in Dubai. I left to the US and studied in Boston, 1999 to 2004. Came back, wanted to join the family business. And my dad kicked me out and said that
kicked you out.
Kicked me out.
Okay, why is that? That's strange.
That's tough. That was kind of like the first welcome back sort of reality.
So welcome back and see you later.
Exactly. So I had to go and work outside the family business, and that's a way for him to teach me to look at the hard reality of life.
Okay.
And be a bit more responsible about it. So I had to go out and work in a company called Dubai Aluminium, a good school, a very industrial, big setup owned by the government. Today it became EGA, Emirates Global Aluminium, and I saw something which was interesting there, which is a business that was based in Dubai. That became almost, the fifth largest aluminium smelter in the world. So that gave me a perspective that we can build something here that can become, top 10 in the world.
So it's a listed company?
I think they will be looking to IPO very soon.
Okay. So is it still owned by the government?
It is still owned by the government.
Okay. But let's pause just for a second. Do you have a lot of siblings?
I have a lot of siblings. Yeah.
Okay.
We have a big family.
And nobody worked in the family business, or was it only you?
I think when we were growing up, we got introduced when we were again in school. We got introduced that to a concept which is third generation are typically the family business breaker. They break the empire or.
That's true. Lots of siblings, they fight.
Yeah, they fight, and So that was one of the things which I had to learn early on, that I need to build my own legacy outside the family business, and it sparked that that idea in my head. There is a lot of potential outside the family business. I don't have to depend on the family business to sort of survive. Early on, my father kicking me out, being independent. Again, that's another piece. When I came back after working in Dubai Aluminium for 3 years, come back, I wanted to join the family business. For 2 years, I had no clue of what to do or what not to do. I was always attached to the energy business, whether it's power generation or oil and gas. There was something about it which was pulling me. I saw the region here with a lot of potential, with a lot of opportunities in the space. So I chose that one beyond 2009, when I saw, the financial crisis and beyond that. So I set up my own oil and gas trading business, which took me around the world and really made me understand how the supply chain works, from upstream to downstream. Oil and gas and energy is such a global commodity today. It's used everywhere.
So you used to trade trade.
So I used to trade oil and gas.
Okay.
And it took me to almost 65 countries globally. And,
Okay.
I did business with many countries.
So you were selling to these countries?
I was selling, I was buying,
Okay.
I was, trading, and I was learning my way. Obviously, it wasn't easy. I made my own mistakes there. I had to learn the difficult, hard way. In 2015, in 2016, the business got very competitive, with national companies coming into the play, and basically owning that space, which was very opportunistic for us before then. So that also pushed me to come out of the comfort zone and to do something again, innovative and new. In 2017, I would say almost, I was attending a family event, where my family bank was celebrating 50 years. And one of the gentlemen over there, a speaker, he was talking about disruption, and how disruption is going to take over every sector out there. Some sectors are heavily disrupted and some sectors are less disrupted. Through the use of technology, new business models can come to life. And that gave me an inspiration that I could do something about oil and gas. Ironically, I was driving a Tesla back then, and that gave me an idea. And by the way, I used to drive Tesla because I hate going to the gas station.
Okay.
One of the benefits of having a Tesla is charging at home.
Uh-huh.
So in 2017, the idea about getting into the space got me to understand a bit more about the business model of the gas station, which is 100-year-old business model that has not been evolved or disrupted through technology. And I came to the idea of Cafu in 2018.
And did it make sense to you immediately? I mean, someone would look. I mean, as you said, these petrol stations, they're owned by really big groups. They're probably the most traditional types of businesses. And then you thought, okay, this is something that's ripe for disruption.
Yeah, I mean, I came, at it purely from an entrepreneurial, spirited point of view, and from a user point of view. And again, looked at the region here. We haven't really invented something in the region and exported or taken it out to other, parts of the world. Funnily, back in 2018, I wanted to get it funded by some of my family members. I was not able to do that. I went out to some of the venture capital funding firms. I was not able to do that because they told me that if your family doesn't believe in you, we will not believe in you, and it's too difficult of a challenge you're taking on yourself. And that made me bootstrap, and made me sort of focus on thinking about how to sort of finance it out, my own way, and be able to focus on the unit economics itself.
Actually, I just noticed we haven't really defined for the audience, what is Cafu, just in case someone doesn't know Cafu, which I doubt. I mean, if you live in the UAE, you've definitely seen the trucks, but describe to us what Cafu does.
So we are the first on-demand fuel delivery company in the region. Today we are more than that. So we look at ourselves as a platform that delivers every service a vehicle owner needs. We are into the space of fuel, be it agnostic. So today we are offering fossil fuel, but tomorrow we are looking into exciting things like electric or hydrogen.
Okay.
And we also offer our other services like car wash, oil change, and tire change, and battery change. We're looking into sort of introducing insurance and other different type of products which are around, I would say, the vehicle and the vehicle ownership space.
Okay, so you're starting to compete with lots of people now, because first you were competing with the petrol station, and now there are some other platforms, startups that are trying to tackle the service aspect of the car, whether it's simple things like oil change or tire change or things like that.
So it's interesting you mentioned competition. I don't really believe in competition. I think that we live in 2022 where we have got a lot of technologies around us, and we believe that we want to disrupt the old ways of doing things. And this is really the piece which we are after. We believe in offering our users and our customers the convenience, and convenience is at heart of what we do. We believe that the vehicles are very advanced at the moment in terms of connectivity, and we believe there is a way for us to connect directly to a vehicle and take that convenience to a completely different level, where the vehicle will be able to order all its services without
the actual car, you mean? The customer's car.
Yeah.
Will be able to order all its because you have a computer that tells you when the service is needed.
Yeah.
So you would connect with that.
Yeah.
Okay.
That's the ultimate vision for us.
That's great.
Okay. To achieve and reach. I think that will become way much better for our planet if we're able to sort of do something like that. It will be.
Why?
Because we are much efficient than the 100-year-old business model or the alternative which is out there.
How are you efficient?
Because we are able to address demand with a dynamic supply, with a supply that is that's mainly driven through efficiency and higher utilization. We're able to disconnect that static shop, whether it being a gas station pumping fuel, or the tire shop, or the oil change shop, and be able to sort of take that supply which is available in a location and make it completely mobile and dynamic. We typically use 10% of our cars. 90% of the time the car is sitting in a parking somewhere. So we believe we can utilize that idle time to do so many things, service the car in different ways, and this is where we want to connect to the car.
Okay, but you so the way I see it is I see the convenience side of things. I mean, we use Cafu all the time. We've been using it for a couple of years now. But how do you? I mean, the way I would look at it is, okay, it's a truck that's driving around a lot. So how is that more efficient?
So the way we see it is we see it as completely, let's say, so we have a zone, and that zone could be a city, and the city has multiple smaller zones within that, and a heat map, and that heat map changes during the day, and the supply typically matches the demand of that particular zone. So typically we punch 5x, 6x more than the typical gas station, and this is where our unit economics is way much.
What does punch mean?
So we basically pump out a
Okay.
higher throughput
Okay.
than the typical gas station.
Okay.
Similarly, on our other services, because of the nature of us being mobile versus the alternative being stuck on the ground. So if you think about a gas station, right, it depends on the traffic which is moving on that gas station.
Yes.
Typically, it changes during the 24 hours. During the morning times and during the evening times, it's peak. But other than that, it's idling. So there's no much utilization. While for us, we operate 24/7, and we typically follow a heat map. A heat map that is generated by consumers, you and me, and by businesses.
So for those that don't know what a heat map is, so basically you have a dashboard where you can see where all the cars that are ordering petrol, for example, in a specific location.
That's correct.
Right? So you can see red and orange and yellow.
Yes,
and stuff.
and that's not us. That's the machine who does that, and the machine is able to process much higher efficiency than us.
So what you're saying is, so you look at these heat maps where most of the demand is concentrated in an area, then your truck is going
exactly
in that area, so you're not driving long distances and back and forth. And where do they refill?
So we typically look at the moment we have one depot centralized in Dubai, but eventually as our volume grows, we will look into something very similar to a hub and spoke model, which is typically few hubs and they feed that typical radius. At that moment of time, we become a bit more efficient. So as we grow, our volume, economies of scale kick in, and our efficiency start to become really much better. And in fact, that's a piece which we have taken onto ourselves to make it much more carbon efficient. You can sort of think about us delivering fuel is really not good from a carbon emission point of view, but in fact we look at how much we emit, and we have stringent targets on ourselves to bring that number lower by different ways, by whether using biofuel on our own trucks. That's something that we're looking at, and by making it the most efficient routing possible to reach a customer. I think I believe in something called energy transition, which is not an energy switch. An energy switch, you can imagine, it's an overnight switch. In this space, we are looking into an energy transition, which will take over a slightly longer period of time, but it's much more sustainable to do it that way. If I look at, for example, the future of fuels, there is electric, which is the one which we obviously see in front of us right now. But there is also hydrogen, which is an abundantly available renewable fuel that could be harnessed and that could be used. There are companies, manufacturers out there who have spent a lot of money on R&D making that happen.
Okay. So it could be something you get at the gas pump, or it's...
So that's interesting, because we see it as there is a problem right now. It's a chicken or egg problem from a supply and demand point of view. There is, if you want to go and buy a Toyota Mirai, which is a hydrogen car, a fuel cell car, you would typically...
What is it called, the car?
Mirai.
Mirai?
Yeah.
Okay.
So it's a hydrogen car.
It's called Mirai.
It's a Toyota Mirai.
It's a Toyota Mirai,
Yeah.
okay.
And
I've never heard of it. Okay, does it exist here?
See, that's the point. If you want to go and buy it, you can possibly buy it, but where would you fill it with fuel?
Okay.
With hydrogen, and hydrogen is a gas. It requires investment, and if I'm a fuel retailer, I would think twice, because there is no hydrogen car owners out there. So would I invest in such a thing? And this is where we think really we can solve that problem by introducing the chicken, which is our supply of hydrogen,
Okay.
and breaking that cycle.
You would integrate it within the current truck that you have, or it would be a
So it
separate
will be a
truck?
specific truck
Okay.
that will be carrying.
Interesting.
basically
And
hydrogen.
is hydrogen better than the electric cars?
So hydrogen is interesting because it converts hydrogen gas into electric power, and it emits water.
Okay.
That's the magic in hydrogen.
Okay.
Yeah, and effectively you get.
Why don't we hear about that? I mean, all we hear about is electric as an alternative.
Yeah, it's an interesting problem to be solved globally because I think it's the same problem you go elsewhere. California has adopted hydrogen long way back, and they have hydrogen stations out there.
Really? Okay.
They subsidize that they subsidize owners to sort of adopt hydrogen, and the problem was again around the same problem. Static hydrogen stations that need to depend on demand to come to it, and demand wasn't that fast to sort of adopt hydrogen. Japan is very advanced in that. They have got many hydrogen stations, but still the adoption has lagged. I think one interesting thing we learned also from electric vehicles is that anybody can access electricity at home, and that's interesting because that's not the hydrogen problem. It's overcoming that, and hence you see adoption rates are increasing on the EVs. But EVs typically don't solve the long haul problem. They typically solve the short haul problem.
But there are now new EVs on the market that are in development that should theoretically have a longer range than what like our Teslas have.
Yeah, I think they can get into a stage where it becomes counterproductive, where heavier batteries, which will give you a longer range, will be counterproductive.
I see. Okay.
So it's an interesting space to look at.
So speaking a little bit about Cafu and the future plans. So you touched a little bit on potentially offering other alternatives than fuel, like hydrogen. Sorry, if I'm not using the correct terminology,
That's
please correct me. Or electric potentially, and different services for the car. Do you see Cafu outside of the UAE? Do you see this model being implemented successfully in, I don't know, places like Saudi Arabia, Egypt, or where could you take it next?
So it's interesting, when we started the idea of Cafu, we thought that, let's address a big market. And the gas stations, globally, we're talking about 350,000 gas stations in the world. And we thought 350,000 gas stations.
Globally?
Globally.
Okay, that's a lot.
I think it's a lot, yeah.
Okay.
And they typically pump 45%.
There's like 10 stations around my house almost.
Yeah, but I'm looking at it from a global point of view,
yes.
And which is interesting because you've got different countries, different markets, which have got different sets of problems. So we wanted to sort of address that from a universal unit economics point of view, and we started looking at how much gas stations pump in the world, etc. And we wanted to prove that by starting somewhere which was close to home, Dubai, and which was open for innovation, and we started here in Dubai. But Dubai is an interesting market, a small market. We have never thought that we would be only a Dubai solution. We always thought that this could be exported, or this can be taken to other parts. Dubai is a good city, known globally for being the best at something, and we thought, launching such a product in Dubai with different multinationals can also be a good way for us to take it into different countries.
Okay, so where could it go next?
It could go anywhere. We are really open. We look at markets out there with the density of gas stations versus vehicles. We look at something called fuel margin. We look at the pain point which customers go through on a daily basis, and then we look at the size of that particular market. I think that we are a metropolitan solution more than anything else. So I don't see us working efficiently on a highway, for example. Gas stations will always be better, at the highway.
So you don't have any kind of regulatory challenges or any like access to fuel type challenges. You think that you can just go
I think
to another country?
fortunately, we have been able to achieve almost 6 million fill-ups very recently, and that number is growing very rapidly. We
Congratulations. And since
are
2018?
since 2019.
2019.
And that's a global benchmark. There's no on-demand fuel delivery company was able to achieve this number in a short span like us, and that gave us a lot of insights in terms of the operation, in terms of the safety, in terms of how better we can scale this thing up. So we are, I would say, in a way, an authority when it comes to on-demand fuel delivery, and we want to protect this industry wherever we go and take it globally. We believe in it, and we believe to support it also.
Okay, so are you operating do you consider yourself a tech startup?
Yes, internally we are a product-led organization, and we believe, we went into a journey disrupting a space which is big enough globally, and which is hot also in terms of topic globally today, and we see many different experiments happening around us in this space, and we look at ourselves pioneering a space that no one has been there yet.
And technology plays a big role in your offering, right? Like how do you organize the routes of the trucks, the app, the orders?
So it's interesting, we see technology as a mean to deliver on our business model, and that's the interesting piece here. I chose to sort of put us as a product-led company because we have invented products that have never been used before, and that's
Has everything been built in-house?
Yeah.
Like the technology. Obviously, you said you designed the trucks as well.
Yeah, again, it was an interesting journey for me because I never came from this background. I never came from the tech background. I had to learn, and I had to learn the hard way, and I had done a lot of mistakes in terms of.
What was
Many.
what was the hardest? Give me one of your hardest experiences you've had.
I mean, many choosing the wrong, let's say, tech stack, choosing the wrong, let's say. Initially, before even taking to develop it internally, we went out and wanted it to sort of develop it out.
That's where all the problems happen.
Yeah. And that's where we figured out that this is such a unique journey we are on, and that we have to build it our own from scratch onwards. And
so you have a CTO?
So I had a head of technology, and now I'm searching for a CTO.
Okay. But the reason why I asked you about this is because there's a lot of hype. Well, not hype. Well, there's a lot going on in the startup in the tech startup space in the UAE. It's been pioneering for a few years now, and the biggest investments are happening here. The biggest number of deals that are taking place is happening here. And we're starting to see investors from all over the world come in, investment companies from the region. So when people look at Cafu, or when investors look at Cafu, and when they try to put it on par with let's say tech startups, or like Kareem or something like that, do you operate in the same way? Again, they would look at scalability and where else can it go. They would look at the unit economics and all of that. So that's why I asked you if you see yourself as a tech startup, or are you funding this on your own terms, or with a closed basically network of people.
So when we started, I always thought that there will be funding for something like this, but I got shocked with the type of questions which I got from the regional investors. mainly when it comes to proving the model. The typical question is that has it been done elsewhere? And if my answer is no, then nobody wants to touch it. Nobody wants to take that amount of risk. They want to see somebody who have built it initially and somebody who is successful. And if that company is successful globally, wherever it is, they will cap our success to that success. I have a fundamental issues with something like that because that limits innovation, that limits our imagination, that limits where we could end up going with it. I believe that we all human beings are unique, and I believe we all have unique journeys, and every company is a unique company. I think the problem starts when we start to compete and with the mindset of competition. I think we need to have that blue ocean thinking going on in every company, and every company can sort of think on what it is there for. Why is it existing from day one? And if the answer is to compete with someone else, then my suggestion is shut down and leave. I think we need to sort of address the problems that we live in today.
What were the concerns, Rashid? I mean, you're delivering petrol to people's homes. It's not like it's. I mean, you're taking something that exists and just making it better. So I'm just surprised that you didn't get more interest initially.
Yeah, investors they never look at it from that point of view. They see is it been proven out there, and they attach the proof of this concept to someone else. I think we live in a unique region, and I think we are addressing a unique problem through technology, through imagination. And initially it was that the government and the regulation will stop you. I knew how to sort of deal with the regulation. My own brother did not believe that it will work. Okay. Before I started the business, and he thought, why would people need this service? I don't see it a problem. I don't see the gas station being a problem. But under the hood, we always knew that our unit economics will be way much better than the gas station. So hence that was a belief that we had, and that myself bootstrapped the business and invested in my own.
So you funded it?
I funded the business.
Do you still fund it?
I still fund it. I believe also that we.
So you're all in.
Exactly, yeah. And that's the way how I made it possible to reach wherever it is today. And I don't think we are. I think this is the beginning of something big. Okay. I think we are just scratching the tip of the iceberg.
What do you see the end game for you with Cafu?
Global domination.
Global domination. Yeah. Okay.
I think the mobility space is a very interesting space. It's ever evolving. People are solving different problems, but nobody really addressed the infrastructure space around mobility. We will soon start seeing autonomous driving coming up, but the autonomous driving require infrastructure around it that needs to be plugged with a machine that needs to supply that vehicle with all the services required to it.
Interesting. So while the gas stations might become obsolete, maybe I don't know, in maybe 20 years when everything becomes autonomous or EVs or hydrogen or whatever, then you have the infrastructure or like the agility to replace fuel with whatever else.
Exactly.
Correct?
Exactly.
But you've already mapped out this, like you have already the relationship with the customer. You service their car, you clean their cars, you fill their cars, and you can just replace whatever the fuel is.
So one of our ultimate, I would say, vision is to automate the whole service around it. Is to connect directly to the vehicle and be able to take that, cumbersome, boring service for consumers.
It's the most horrible experience, by the way.
Yeah, and you can imagine, if you are like
the service. I'm talking about the service of the car.
Yeah, and you can imagine if you are like living in a metropolitan, a very busy city with traffic. Out there in the region or outside the region even, how much time would you be investing? We've noticed, some of those metropolitans with 10 million population, people take around 2 hours to just refuel their vehicles. And that's a cumbersome, let's say,
That's Lebanon.
operation for an individual who is busy, with their lives. My dream is to see the impact within, a period of time of how much time we would have. I mean, we have saved our customers, whether it's businesses or consumers.
You track this?
We do track that, yeah.
Okay, that'd be interesting.
I mean, simply, 6 million fill-ups we have done in the last 3 years almost now, with 20 minutes on an average. You can do the multiplication there.
An average wait time.
An average wait time.
That what someone would spend at the
Yeah.
petrol station.
But if we are operating in a different market, in a different city,
Yeah.
that 20 minutes could become 2 hours, and you can multiply that with the amount of fill-up. So it's a lot of saving, and it's a lot of, carbon emissions saved. And that's the ultimate dream.
It's very exciting.
Yeah.
It's a very interesting company. Initially, when I saw the trucks, I also thought like, why would you need this? But ultimately, we use it all the time, and we don't go to the petrol station anymore.
Yeah.
It's just so, because as you said, like it comes at night, you're sleeping, and you order the truck, and it just comes at 1 a.m., refills your car, and leaves.
It's an interesting piece because sometime back before COVID, I was pushed by some of my team members to introduce cash as a physical cash, as a payment method. And I pushed back on that one because I thought that destroys the user experience. The user experience right now is you pin the order, and the credit card is saved on our app. We come and we fill up your car without us really needing to call you or notify you about it. That's the level of service which we are aiming for and trying to maintain for. By introducing cash, you destroy that whole
100%.
user experience.
Anyway, COVID accelerated everything that's digital and
Exactly.
non-cash. Basically, is cash is dying almost, and even across the region, you have very high adoption or increase in adoption in credit cards and so on. So I think for we're still at the beginning, basically, of where the potential could be.
Yeah.
With more adoption.
Yeah.
We can't ignore what's happening today in Russia and Ukraine, and this is a business show. It's not a political show, so we don't really want to tackle the political side of it. But you're in the fuel business, and there's a lot of talk, obviously, about sanctions, and actually there are sanctions. So how does that impact your business here?
So interesting. I mean, like, if we look at it from a short-term point of view, it impacts it positively, obviously.
How so?
So we typically look into buying last month prices, and we sell this month prices, and our margins are locked in. So that's from a short term.
But today, did you increase your prices, or?
So we typically follow the fuel station.
Okay.
We supply. I mean, we fuel up customers at the fuel station, same price.
Okay.
But obviously, we are much more efficient than a fuel station. When we look at it from a medium and longer term, I think this will only increase the EV adoption, and it will accelerate that conversion to EVs. I think that's again a space that we are looking at. We are a fuel agnostic company, and we want to help accelerate such a move. We all knew that fossil fuel is going to be out there for the next 20, 30 years. At those prices, that life cycle might shave or might sort of reduce to maybe 20 or 15 years from now. So I think it's an interesting time which we are living in.
But you have to, I mean, this is one of your business challenges as well. You have to think about buying fuel, right? And like ordering in advance.
So we typically buy from the fuel suppliers in the UAE here, who is also a refiner, and typically we have a long-term contract with them, fuel supply contract, that is basically locking in our let's say fuel margin. So it's a very covered, I would say, aspect of the business.
Okay, well, let's wrap up with a few thoughts on your end about your experiences. I'd like to know what are your where do you stand on some of these notions. So you mentioned to me when we spoke earlier that you're a father, you have 3 children. What do you think about work-life balance as an entrepreneur?
So it's it's an interesting time. When I was going to school back in Boston in 2004, I got to know about mid-age crisis.
Okay.
It was
That early?
No, I got to know about it. That you get to mid-age crisis in your 30s.
Okay.
I'm today 39, and I thought about it. That when I get to mid-age crisis, it's gonna be 6 months, and it will pass by, and I'll be able to overcome. This is something that I was to think about. But mid-age crisis, I think, is much more than that. I think it's we all go through our careers and our lives, and there are moments of life where we have to devote it towards certain things and certain aspects more than the other. So I believe in wheel of life, and where you can focus only at certain elements of your life during that period of time.
Mm-hmm.
But there are certain others that you won't be able to focus much on. So you need to sort of be able to choose which one are you going to be focusing in that moment of time.
Mm-hmm.
And typically in this moment of time, for me, in my journey, in my unique journey, I think I'm building something big here, and I want to sort of be able to take it to the next level, and then I'll be able to sort of take a little bit time off at that moment of time. But I really think that now it's the time to sort of give.
You're in full work mode.
Exactly, give the maximum possible to make this.
Okay, so you must have a very supportive family then, an understanding family.
Very thankful for that, and and I knew it. When I started my own business, that business will take a lot of my time, and it's an understanding between myself first, within myself, and many of us go through different conflicts in life and different sort of moments where I have to be there, but I have to also be here. I think when you realize you're giving away something for something else, and that's for the better of everything, that's a moment of relief internally first.
Mm-hmm.
And that's a moment where you can maximize your focus in that element of life.
I think a lot of people look at the entrepreneurs and how successful they are or how successful they become. I think people don't necessarily see the support system around entrepreneurs. Having been an entrepreneur myself and having had my own business, I believe if you don't have a supportive spouse or partner, I think it's very, very difficult. So it's a function of both of you basically agreeing that, okay, this is going to be hard and there's going to be sacrifices, but we're going to do this.
So definitely, I think that it's not something for everybody. Entrepreneurship.
That's true.
I think you have, or a person has to sort of choose before they get into it, that it's a dedication, it's a devotion, it's many sacrifices around it. So they need to sort of know that that's going to be a fact, and it's given.
Self-development. Do you constantly work on yourself?
I mean, self-development with my mindset first,
Mm-hmm.
before anything else. Reading new concepts, open-minded person. The internet is able to sort of give us a lot of education, a lot of stuff happening out there. I continuously look at that. New pioneering business models have always been intriguing inside me. I look at them as puzzles, and I kind of like sort of connect the dots in my head the minute I see a business in front of me, and I get intrigued to sort of understand what drives that business. I typically like to sort of go and educate myself in a fast manner, in a way where if I don't know a subject, I used to sort of, take some time off and go take a course. Typically, online courses are very sort of beneficial and useful in that aspect. So I did a lot of them back in the days when I started the company, um, and I learned a lot from that. And I used to sort of practice it live with the
with
business.
your company.
Yeah,
Yeah. So it's an ongoing process.
of course. Yeah.
Yeah. Health?
Health is, an interesting thing. I think,
Entrepreneurs are prone to
they have
burnout.
to. They have to do that. We have to work out. We have to sleep, well and eat well. And that's a way to keep stress levels at healthy levels. It's natural for us to get overstressed at times, and I think it's good to sort of get to know what is a good reliever for that stress and what's good. So what has worked for me is some time off. I'm enjoying our new weekends now.
Yes.
It's giving me a little bit more time to breathe and think. I think with entrepreneurs, at times we get into this cycle of continuous running, and burning out. It's I think the balance there is healthy. The balance of getting slightly burned out and slightly, let's say, relieved or relaxed. That's a moment where you connect ideas and you slow down pace. And I think it's important to sort of have that. Back in the days before COVID, I used to travel a lot, and I used to sort of take those moments when I'm on a train, on a flight, on in a car, thinking about how to solve something, a problem in the business, or come up with new ideas.
How do you capture these ideas? Do you have a system? Is it in your head? Do you take
No,
notes?
I take notes.
You take notes?
Conventional way, pen and paper.
Conventional. I had a guest on the show, Jonathan Laban. He said something that I found very interesting. He said, people say that life is a marathon, and he doesn't think that life is a marathon. He thinks that life is a series of sprints, where you work hard, get to a place, and then you take some time off, and then you recharge, and then you go at it again. I think it's a very interesting concept.
I know Jonathan some time back, and I met him, and he told me the same thing.
Oh, really?
I think it was an interesting concept which he told me about, which is where he has taken some time off.
Yes, he traveled for a year. He took a year off.
Exactly. And that was a moment where I was thinking, can I even afford to do something like that? And that's a luxury thing back then in the days. And I'm really looking forward for when I can take the next 1 year off.
Yeah. Well, last question for you. If as an Emirati yourself and as a business owner, is there something that, and the UAE has been pioneering on so many levels. Is there something that you think you would like to see more of?
I really look at us as a region here. And that's something I give credit to my dad. He has brought us up as, we belong to this whole region, and we have to think about the region. And the region, I'm talking about the whole Arab countries here. I think there is a lot of opportunities for youth and the next generation of entrepreneurs to come up with radical ideas which shouldn't be the next Cafu, shouldn't be the next food delivery company or e-commerce company. We need to sort of think of using whatever technologies is available out there to come up with fresh business models and ideas. And this is where we can sort of innovate here and innovate with a proper definition of innovation. We live in really exciting times. I think we have really smart, generation coming up. They have went to school. They didn't go to school, but they learned their own way. So I think it's, I really want to see the next, big idea come from this region. I want to be an example, if I can, to make that happen. And for us, less to be followers, for us to be leaders and pioneers out of this region.
Yeah. We're slowly, I think, there is some light at the end of the tunnel. We're starting to see some exciting projects. I interviewed last week Amran Sharaf. He's the head of the Emirates Mars mission. He was talking about the Mars probe, so the Hope probe. Sorry. So I think there's, we're moving in the right direction. So hopefully we'll get there eventually.
Yeah, I want to see more of that.
Well, Rashid, thank you so much for coming here. It was such a pleasure to host you.
Thank you, Loulou.
Thank you so much for tuning into this episode of Conversations with Loulou. I hope you enjoyed the discussion with Rashid Al Ghurair. As usual, if you want to reach out to me, you can visit www.conversationswithloulou.com, and you can go on the contact section and you can reach out for guest recommendations, for speaking opportunities, or any other queries you may have. If you want to support the show, please subscribe on YouTube or on your favorite podcast app. We're available on Apple Podcasts, Anghami, Spotify, and more. And help us grow the show by recommending it to your friends and colleagues and family and whoever will benefit from it. Thank you so much for tuning in, and see you in a few weeks.